Hello, welcome to this week's Rough Around the Edges with me. This is my unedited, unfiltered thoughts, getting away from the pristineness of social media. As always, I've got a couple of things written down on my phone, but nothing major. It's not scripted. We'll just kind of see where it goes. Now, something that I'm very conscious of that I don't want this to turn into is a rant, just me ranting for, 10 minutes or whatever it works out to be. I wanted to make sure that there's kind of positive things in there as well as takes and challenges and thoughts on other things that have been going on. Something that I love, and I'm interested to know what yours are, is do you have a thing that you just are helpless when you see something and you go, I want to buy that. I want to invest time and energy and money into it. And it might be something that's really frivolous. It might be something that's amazing. Like, so for instance, for me, kitchen gadgets. Like, if there's a tool, a utensil, I'm a sucker for it. I'm a marketer's wet dream when it comes to things like, for instance, I think I've got about 4 different garlic implements. I've got something for removing skin. I've got different garlic crushers. I've got all sorts going on. And I just recently, after a conversation I had with a client of mine, bought a strawberry I don't know what that's called. The green bit in there. So obviously normally you chop it off. But this, you just kind of stab it in and it pulls it out. It doesn't really work that well, which is, I guess it's often the way. But sometimes you do drop on one that's a beauty. Like, I don't know if anybody remembers them, but they were like a box with a chopper. And you could have different, like, things that you'd fit, whether it was big squares, small squares, graters, slicers. They call them mangolin. Mangolin, maybe? Where you slide it on, you go, it might take the end off your fingers. That was a great find. So I love buying kitchen implements. So if we ever walk past like a Pro Cook or something like that, Joe literally has to drag me away so we don't go in. The same with glassware. I've always, even since I was a little kid, and I don't know why, been fascinated by like the different glassware for different occasions, for different drinks, whether it's a sherry glass, whether it's champagne, different types of champagne glasses, whether it's a flute or a saucer, tall glasses, short glasses, cut glass. Like, I don't know what it is about it, but I could wander around looking at glassware for hours. I find it fascinating. Very different to, if me and Joel go into a shop and we end up like, he's not interested in glassware. Speaking of me and Joel going into somewhere, we went to a flotation pod this last week. So you might not have heard of these. You'd be like, it's not like it's a mainstream thing. Basically, it's a pod that you go in. It's supposed to be like a sensory deprivation tank. And you go in it and you float in it. It's got loads of magnesium in it, which makes you float. I guess like the salt in the Dead Sea kind of thing. And you go in and it's dark and there's music at the beginning. There's a bit of music at the end, but you can have it on all the way through. But the idea is that even when we sat down, gravity is affecting our body, right? And so there's always a level of tension in your muscles. And being in these flotation devices, it basically takes that tension out of your muscles because you are weightless. And you get like a snapshot, I guess, of what astronauts are going through. Maybe not quite the same, but that's supposed to be the idea. And the idea is that your body kind of relaxes and you go into this kind of sleepy, you're half asleep, half awake, and you just get a full relaxation. So after the other week, we'd had a really busy couple of weeks. I'd had an event, GMC in-person event down in London. And so Joel had booked that as a nice thing. So we went as a bit of a date. I mean, maybe it says a lot about our relationship when our date is an hour separate in a floating tank where it's quiet and dark. But we went in that. And it was fantastic. It was really, really, really good. You kind of have a half dream thing. And then when you try to lift your arms up afterwards, it's really heavy. Would recommend. I've never done it before. I would do it again, but it was great. Something interesting though, when we walked in, the guy was explaining to us what's going on. And he said something, referring to me and Joe, and he said something about, I was just telling you friend. And there was a part of me that went, I'm gonna correct him. Should I correct him? And then I didn't correct him. And then I was kind of thinking about that, and I just thought, should I have said no? That's my partner. And then I was like, it wasn't that he was saying it in a derogatory way. It wasn't that he was saying anything, it was totally innocent, is what I'm saying. And I was thinking about, am I a bad gay for not correcting him? And then I thought about it, and I thought, statistically, he's got more chance of it being correct by assuming that we are friends versus a couple, right? Because, gay people are a minority. I think it's about 1 in 10. So realistically, if he was to say, talking to your friend, when a couple of guys walk in, 9 out of 10 times he would be right. So, and if it was a different conversation and it was about, what's, I don't know, going on in our lives, I just feel like the context that I would have been a bit of a pedant by going, actually, we're not friends, we're partners. Like it had no relevance on the conversation. And the guy was in no way, shape or form being exclusionary or anything like that. But it did make me question, am I right to, should I say something or not? And I didn't. And then I was like, do you know what? You got to pick your battles, haven't you? And that, not that was a battle, but there are things that need calling out. There are people that need educating. I don't feel like he was one of them. And then there's a part of you that thinks, well, does that make me a bad game? Why do I? And I'm not just saying this because of me, because I know a lot of people feel this. Am I taking on things that, why should I be representative of the whole gay community? And you can't be, and people complain about being represented, and you don't represent me, and all that kind of stuff. But these are the kind of thoughts that go through our heads. And I think, again, it comes down to there are people who are coming after gay rights and things like that. This guy wasn't one of them. And so it's important to pick your battles. Who is the enemy? You see this all the time with people of when I say the left, I mean anywhere left of the far right. When the issue, one of the big issues with the left in politics is that we all fight with each other. People aren't perfect enough. People aren't doing exactly the right thing at the right time. So they're flawed, and we can't, that is a big problem in people of a more liberal view. I'm going to say liberal. I'm just talking not being an arsehole. Do you know what I mean? I'm not talking, the extremes of the political spectrums here. Yeah, I think that's something to be mindful of, that we have to pick our battles and we have to be aware of who the enemy, well, I don't even need to do that, of who the people are that are actually coming for us. This guy saying that wasn't homophobic or things like that. But, if me saying that, someone could go, oh, you should have said something, you should have corrected him, but it wasn't the dumb thing at the time. Does that make sense? This is the kind of thought process that's going on in my head with stuff like this, self-talk and things like that. Speaking of talking, actually, something that I've spoken about this quite a lot on my social media, and it just seems something that is becoming more and more prevalent, is I think that mental health talk is actually, I think people using it frivolously, as if they are qualified psychologists and psychotherapists. I think that is having a massive negative impact on people's mental health. I feel like sometimes people think that they're one trigger or a bad, day away from a mental breakdown, and they start to use mental health talk to kind of justify behaving like a dick. I think if you cancel your plans with your friend last minute and cite, if you are really in a bad way and you really don't want to do something, then yeah, I get that. But often, I'm a bit tired, I'm a bit pissed off, I need to protect my boundaries, cancel everything, not offer a proper explanation, apologies. I think people try to pathologize human behavior far too much. If someone is, listen, we can all display narcissistic tendencies in that we can all do something that is selfish, that puts us first. Every human being does that. That does not make someone a narcissist. Sometimes when someone acts like a dick, they're just a dick. And I feel like we've lost sight of that. We try to pathologize everything. Things can be toxic, or we can pathologize other people's behavior that's just dickish behavior and say that that's toxic, that's narcissistic, that's sociopathic, that's psychopathic, that's, all these words, and then we can kind of excuse our own behavior and often other people's behavior as well. Oh, that's just my attachment style, or I'm protecting my peace and I'm protecting my boundaries, and all that we should do, right? And it's really, really good that we have a better understanding of mental health. We talk about it, and we are aware of these terms and things like that. But it's not for us as unqualified practitioners to go around diagnosing ourselves and each other. And it's like there's been this, and it happens, you see it happen a lot, like these overcorrections. We saw it, if you think about like Me Too, obviously horrendous behavior, predatory behavior, things like that. And then people became terrified of saying anything. And it's a good, and don't get me wrong, it is a good thing that this is behavior that is being noticed, and then there has been an overcorrection. If the overcorrection is the price that we have to pay to get to the place that is where we all want to be as a society, where most of us want to be as a society, then that is the price that we have to pay. But I think you see it across all areas where we've kind of ignored something and then there's been an overcorrection. So I mentioned Me Too there. You see it with like sex positivity now. So we've had a very rigid rules of what relationships should be, what sex should be. I'm talking if you go back to like the 50s and things, and then it obviously gets a bit more lax. But still, even, up until the 90s, early 2000s, there's very rigid rules around a relationship. It's monogamous, it's between two people, it's, sex with more than this many people, you're a slag, and then less than that, you're frigid, whatever. There's societal rules. And then there becomes this thing where we go, actually, we don't want to do that no more, and we don't want to live by this very narrow set of rules. So we go, right, shed all the rules whatsoever. And then you see people being in open relationships, like obviously the rise of OnlyFans and things like that. And that's all well and good. Sex is not bad, but a lack of rules and routine and things, nobody's ever really happy with any kind of lack of structure. You see people do it all the time with dieting and things, right? Oh, it's too rigid, just go, I'm going to bin it all off. No routine, no structure, no whatever, feel crap, go the other way. So like these pendulums in various different areas of life are kind of swinging all the time. And I feel like that's what's happened with mental health. Nobody talked about mental health. People said it was, you just got to suck it up and things like that. And then there's been this thing where we go, or we can't do anything to put anybody's mental health out of whack at all. And sometimes it's just life happening. And again, if this is the price to pay to get to a point where there's some sensible, outlook and reception of people's mental health and understanding around it and taking it into consideration, then, that is absolutely fine, and I'm here for it. I think it's just important to be aware of that's kind of where we are. I think we're kind of on the way back now to the, somewhere around a happy medium. But these pendulums are always swinging for different things across life, whether it is relationships, sex, mental health, education, community. Like you had this big thing where everyone was like, oh, you've got to be lone wolf, you've got to be hustler, you've got to be, and then we're going the other way now where you have people talking about, you know, it's all about, this is the point of life and community, and it's a mix, right? This is the thing, I guess, is that there's a nuance and it's never fixed in one place. It's never the same for every single person, but be mindful of over pathologizing things. And, you know, if you've had a bad day or I'm on the cusp of a breakdown, because that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, how we speak to ourselves. You know, for me, I've spoken about this before. I've done a lot of therapy over the years, and you hear people talk about doing the work, and those conversations that we have with ourselves, how we speak to ourselves, that is the work. You know, talking ourselves down off a cliff, off the edge of where we go, oh God, I can't do it, I can't do it. Yeah, you can, you know, everything's going to be okay. Those internal conversations is the work. It's not, yes, therapy is a part of it, and meditation and journaling and, you know, looking after yourself and protecting your boundaries and all that kind of stuff. That is the work. But more than anything, it's how we speak to ourselves. And I think it's so easy to fall into the trap of, you know, this internal dialogue becoming labeling everything, pathologizing everything, black and white, all or nothing. So it's really important to have that nuance, I guess. And that is what I want to try and do with Rough Around the Edges, is to have a level of nuance and kind of go through my own thoughts, because there can be days where you could talk to me about a particular topic and I go, this is how I feel about it, and it's this, and then the next day it's going to be slightly different. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to take different things. I think as long as something it lines up with your beliefs and your conscience, then that is what separates us from the other animals. So and again, that's what I'm trying to do with this. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts. That was a good bit of a ramble there. Let me know what your thoughts are. If there's any particular topics you'd like me to discuss on Rough Around the Edges, then stick them in the comments section below, and do all the nice stuff like subscribe, follow, check out the other videos. You'll notice that I've been posting some workshops as well every Sunday. So this is going out on a Thursday. On a Sunday, there's workshops going out that I've done with clients over various different topics. So if you are looking for some level of self-development, topics that you want to improve on and things like that, you can always take a look at that. So thank you for watching. Stay safe. I'll see you next week.